What's up, guys? I'm back with another video. It's still pretty early in the morning today, but we got a lot of work to do because today we're gonna be taking a look at the Tiger Lite. Now this is kind of strange to me because I'm gonna be completely honest, this keyboard does seem pretty overhyped to me. We're gonna first go over what's in the box here because there's a lot. So first of all, the cable. I think this is like legitimately a good cable. You know, I don't know what I was expecting to be included with this, but the KBD67 Lite, which is gonna be our main comparison here today, that didn't come with a good cable. I mean, it's fine, but it's like one of those telephone coiled cables that kind of suck. So yeah, this is nice to see. Now, obviously, besides the cable, the first thing is the case, and I've not taken a look at this yet, of course, so let's see what this is all about. Alright, so I opted to go with the basic black because I don't actually have any fully black keyboards that I'm happy with right now. So especially with this being a TKL, I figured this would be really clean. The most notable addition to this case, or change rather, from the KBD67 Lite is the logo actually looks good now. Again, let's compare this to the KBD67 Lite. It'll be harder to see. Oh, I guess not. Thought it was going to be harder to see because of the ink colored case. That's their old Comic Sans font. They changed that in favor of their clean logo, which I like. I really like the look of this case. All right, other than the case and the cable, we get a plethora of other stuff. So yeah, it seems like you get a lot of stuff with it, which can be intimidating, but it's not actually all that bad. So obviously you have the PCB, polycarbonate plate. Then the first thing you have, and this is one of the reasons you benefit from a transparent case, potentially, is they have their custom designed tape mod. So it's just like a it's a sticker essentially. It's to replace the tape mod and actually have something that looks cool. So if you have a transparent case, you can see that. Another reason this benefits from a transparent case, other than the tape mod, is that it has underglow RGB, but it has no LEDs on the actual switches. So after the PCB and plate, you get a few more bags of foam. So yeah, it kind of makes it seem like you get a lot, but this is actually not that scary. First of all, what do we have on top here? This is the switch foam. This goes on top of the PCB if you want it to, and it will pretty drastically change the sound. Now, I believe this is not PE foam. I think this is actually EVA foam. The next foam we get is case foam, just to put in the bottom case. This stuff is very similar to what you get with the KBD67 Lite, but of course, it's a different size because this is a TKL. And the last foam we get is a simple plate foam. Now, this is different from the KBD67 Lite because the KBD67 Lite's plate foam is actually silicone, and it also has the gaskets on it. And then obviously, you get your stabilizers. I believe these are just cherry screw-ins. And then lastly, we have this other bag of stuff, but there's actually a lot in here, so I want to go over this real quick. So first of all, this is something I like to see, and I've been seeing with a lot more keyboards lately. You get a tool to actually screw in the screws to the case and all that. Then also in that little baggie, you get your case feet with 2 extras. And then here are the, what I call gasket socks. This is how it mounts. So on the plate, there's little protrusions, and these just slide on instead of having the silicone plate foam with gaskets also protruding from it. Then you just get your packets of screws. These are for everything you need. You got for, let's see here. I'll have to figure out which is which, but I believe, oh no, we have the stabilizer screws inside the stabilizer bag. So these are going to be for the case, screwing in the daughter board to the case. I think that's it. I'll have to see later. Then the last important thing, which is actually not mentioned in the build guide, but it's pretty huge. These are stabilizer shims. These aren't regular stabilizer pads for dampening the sound or anything. It says it on here. It says check build guide from website before installing. So that's interesting. I didn't know there was a build guide on their site. I only saw the build guide on their YouTube, which did not mention these at all, and a ton of people had questions in the comments. So what these do is the PCB is 1.2 millimeters, and regular PCBs are 1.6. So you have that 0.4 millimeters difference, and that's for the stabilizers, obviously, because you see the stabilizer mounting points. But these are normal stabilizers for a 1.6 millimeter PCB. So these cover that extra gap. Otherwise, they'll just rattle around, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so these are important. Don't throw these away or anything. Now, real quick, before I go and do the actual work of getting this build done, to give this a as fair as possible comparison to the KBD67 Lite, I'm going to be building this with plate foam and case foam. I'm not going to be using the switch foam or tape mod for now, and I don't think that would be in this video, but if I do end up trying to use that, I will just make a follow-up sound test or something. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this keyboard turns out because the KBD67 Lite is one of my current favorite keyboards because it just works, and it's really easy to get it to sound pleasant. I will see you guys after this is done, because I want to go enjoy this build process, and we got work to do. So yeah, I will see you guys in a moment. Okay, so it's been a couple of days since I did this build now, and I think I can actually formulate somewhat of an opinion on it. I did make notes for this, but even in the notes, I have a lot of stuff listed, so I'll try my best to keep this as short and easy to understand as possible. But first of all, let's start with the retail price of this. Just keep this in mind. The retail price of this is 120 US dollars. I get them from Divinity, and they have free shipping over $99 in the US. So first of all, we went over the contents in the unboxing, but let me just recap this really quick because there's a couple different ways to break down the value of this, and I actually found this interesting when going through all of this. So the contents include your carrying case, and keep in mind that is the only form of packaging. It's just a carrying case wrapped in some plastic. Then it comes with a ABS case. It's very close to the KBD67 Lite. Also comes with a PC plate. If there's going to only be one plate option, PC plate is a safe bet. Comes with cherry screw-in stabs that are meant for 1.6mm PCBs, so also it comes with shims. I thought these were going to be a lot harder to deal with, both the stabs and the shims. It's a lot easier to put the shims on top of the PCB when installing these stabilizers. What I did for these stabs is I just lubed the housings and stems with Krytox and dipped the wires in dielectric grease. They were totally balanced enough to where I didn't feel a need to try to fix it. Now, the thing that does carry this board, depending on how you look at it, is the inclusion of case foam, plate foam, and switch foam. So with that being said, the sum of the individual contents of this is surprisingly good value even at full price, even though you might be kind of thinking about it and like, hey, shouldn't this be a little cheaper maybe? But let's break it down here. So the case, it's ABS, probably about 20 bucks. That's how much they sell the KBD67 Lite case for. Then also the PC plate for a TKL, I'd say ballpark at cheapest like 15 bucks, but I'm not actually sure on the prices for mass-produced plates because I'm not talking getting like a custom plate made. Now, the PCB is a hard one because you can't actually buy this PCB by itself yet, but I just estimated it would be around 60 bucks. Now, again, the foams, going off of strictly the pricing of Stupid Fish foams, it would be around 42 bucks, but I'd say maybe like 30. Then cherry screw-ins alone, at least from the KBDFans site, those come to 15 bucks. Then also, what I did include in the value is this cable because it is fairly nice, and as you can see, it's my main cable now. I decided to change it out. I put that around 15 bucks because this is just a straight cable, no extra connectors or anything like that, just a simple USB-A to USB-C. So the total of that before any shipping, and if we price the foams at 42, because that's what it came out to on like the Stupid Fish site, for the individual parts, it would be around $167. Now I know this isn't how it works, but I was just curious to see if I broke it down part by part, how the value would be, and it makes sense because it would be more expensive to buy individual parts. Now that the objective stuff about this keyboard's out of the way, and I had to make some notes here because my thoughts, especially at very first, were pretty mixed. Now I will say, going back to other reviews first of all that I've done, my thoughts do end up changing from initial impressions, so take these as like an initial impression. I'm trying to be really fair about this, but stuff does change over a longer period of time. So the first thing that stands out to me after building this board is very light. Some pre-builts are heavier than this. It's not paper light. There's a little something there, but not much. Another reason that it feels probably less dense and heavy is because they actually opted for plate foam instead of silicone. There's no silicone in any of this, it's foams. Now, when we're not talking about actually using this, when you tap around the case, you can hear how hollow this is. Like, you just have to tap the top and you just hear how thin and hollow the case is. This leans towards feeling like a toy, though that might be a slight exaggeration, but it is pretty close. I really don't think this would just up and break on me. It is fine if you can get over the weight, and I think I am kind of getting over the weight. Now, onto the real special part about this board, which is what everybody says, but I thought this was overhyped. It's the typing feel and typing sound. Now, I'm leaving the sound test for the end on purpose here because I'm not gonna lie, I went in with really no expectations for this keyboard, but the sound really did shock me. Now, to say it shocked me seems like it could be an exaggeration, but I think that is a very accurate way to put it, is the initial impressions of the sound very much did shock me, like with this configuration. My configuration that I'm using here is using the plate and case foams, no tape, no switch foam. Gateron KS9 Pro 2.0 browns. The keycaps I'm using is my very shiny and loose GMK white on black set, and the reason I knew I could use this here is because this 7U spacebar is essentially unused, so it's not super loose or anything. My first impressions of the sound was it still leaned towards a foamy sound. The factory lube on these switches does help it out, but it does contribute to that sound. It's a very pleasant foamy sound. It's not super obnoxious like if you did include the switch foam with it. It's just a very easy to enjoy sound signature, which surprises me because usually with KS9 switches of any kind, the top housing just ruins the sound for me. But I'm glad to say that that's not the case with this. These actually sound really good with this configuration. It did surprise me. Something else that's very noticeable for me is I do feel vibrations when I'm typing. That could be because the foam isn't quite enough to dampen the case, but either way, this has been really pleasant. With the very light, soft tactility of Gatoron browns, it's like I said, it's just very pleasant. It's not nearly as bouncy as people hype it up to be, and that's literally because I'm using foams in here. That does kill it a lot, and I understand that, and I expected that going in. And when comparing the build quality to the sound and typing feel, it's the complete opposite. Like, it feels not the greatest in terms of build and weight. And like I said, you can just, like, the case is hollow, you just tap it and it sounds like an ABS case. But then you go to type on it and it sounds and feels really good, which again really surprises me because I really did think that this keyboard was just plain overhyped, but I kind of get it now. And if you really want this to bounce and flex and all that, just don't use any foams. Though I'm not sure how the sound would be. At that point, with no foams, I think it would be pretty hollow plastic sounding, but I could be wrong because I haven't actually tried it in person. I have only heard sound tests with it. And that's another thing, is sound tests didn't help my expectations of this board at all. I will say that. A lot of sound tests I heard of this keyboard were not the best, but you can really shape this keyboard with the foams you get and stuff. You can choose what to add and what not to add, so you can pretty much tune the sound relatively however you want to, which is another plus of this particular keyboard. But yeah, that pretty much covers where I'm at with this so far. Overall, in summary, feels underwhelming in terms of build quality. Feels and sounds shockingly good compared to its build quality. The cherry screw-in stabs are surprisingly good, at least so far. And even though the PC plate is light, it is a really safe bet. Especially for sound, it is a safe bet. People will always have their preferences, and I can't promise you're gonna like a PC plate, but in my opinion, it is very likable by a lot of people. So yeah, this keyboard really did surprise me. I still question the overall value of it just because of how it feels. I think if you are traveling with this, the carrying case will be just fine. This was the first proper full build I have done in a long time, and let me tell you, it was fun. There was no problems with the build overall, and like I said, it did take a long time, but very, very fun. If you just have like a whole day at most to give yourself time, it's nice. So with that said, here is the most exciting part of this, the sound test. There is a lot of PC fan noise in here because I did have to turn off noise suppression, but I really do think that this sound is at least in the ballpark of how it sounds to me in person. So here it is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys when I see you.